Alexander Povetkin was virtually invisible on the stage yesterday in the United States because of all the questions about Wilder, because of Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is very witty, by the way, in the way that he was rebutting some of the questions about the Deontay Wilder situation. He said that there are more people here, meaning at the press conference yesterday, than there was at Deontay Wilder's last fight, which is pretty funny. Again, like I said in previous videos, Joshua's not a good talker, so he leaves it to his promoter Eddie Hearn, who is a good talker, who is witty. But Povetkin on the stage in America, you almost forgot that he was there because of everything else that was going on. And that benefits Alexander Povetkin because in front of him, he sees a man in Joshua who is potentially overwhelmed by the situation that he's in, whose mind is not really focused, who's thinking about the deal with DAZN, the Deontay Wilder fight, the beef with Jarrell Miller, what Miller said about his mom, trying to deal with the questions from the press about the Wilder. There's a lot going on, it would seem, in Anthony Joshua's head. A lot of confusion, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger. Whereas Alexander Povetkin is kind of, I think, quietly smiling to himself because that potentially plays into Alexander Povetkin's hands. The fact that he has a fighter in Joshua who has maybe some turmoil going on in his brain at this point. So, yeah, Povetkin, from a psychological point of view, I think is in a good place. There's no pressure on him. All the pressure's on Joshua, not just for the Povetkin fight, for loads of other different fights and deals and all this kind of business. This really, really plays into Povetkin's hands. So, yeah, they had a press conference in the UK today. They faced off. It was obviously a much more calm and quiet affair. But Joshua was his usual self. Joshua's public persona is like a robot. He don't really say much. His speech is very robotic and, uninspiring. But that's okay because he's not paid to speak. He's paid to fight. And that's what he does. So, yeah. What do you guys think about this Joshua Povetkin fight? Do you think, like me, that all of the hoopla surrounding Joshua with Miller, Wilder, etc. is going to play into Povetkin's hands? Or do you think Povetkin is just over the hill, too old, he showed vulnerability against David Price, and Joshua should deal with him in relative ease, sorry. Do you think that Joshua will easily be able to separate all the nonsense that's been going on outside the ring from his performance inside the ring? Do you think that he'll have a distracted mind in the run-up to the Povetkin fight? Or do you think he'll be perfectly focused? How's he going to deal with Povetkin from an entertainment point of view? Because the British fans were not very impressed with Joshua's performance against Joseph Parker, but Joshua said that he fought that way because he had one mind on, one eye on the Wilder fight. So he wanted to be cautious against Parker so he didn't mess up. And then the Wilder fight goes out the window. Will he be cautious as well against Povetkin? Because if he is, the fans ain't going to like it. British fans won't like it. Will Joshua feel that pressure? Will he fight safety first again, or will he go for it more against Povetkin? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. How's this fight breakdown from a psychological point of view, from a physical point of view? I think one of the things that people have pointed out, and rightly so, is that Alexander Povetkin, early in Povetkin's career, early in his championship career, when he held the WBA regular belt, he had somewhat of a stamina problem. Remember when he fought Marco Huck? He had somewhat of a stamina problem. But from the Klitschko fight onwards, that stamina problem seemed to have completely evaporated. Now, some people could speculate that it was the meldonium he was using. Yeah? And meldonium does increase stamina, so you have to imagine that there was something to that. With this fight being in the UK, and meldonium now being on the banned list, you would imagine that it's highly unlikely that Alexander Povetkin is going to be on meldonium, and it was probably unlikely that he was on meldonium against David Price. And in the Price fight, he did look to be blowing a bit. He did look to be gassing a little bit after a couple of rounds. Even though he got rid of David Price in good fashion, he still looked tired to me. Will that be where Anthony Joshua wins the fight when Alexander Povetkin's gas tank starts running on empty late on? Then again, Anthony Joshua's stamina has been called into question plenty of times too. But maybe now he knows how to pace himself a little bit better and from a strategic point of view break down an older, smaller fighter like Povetkin who possibly has a reoccurring stamina issue. So let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out.